Good evening. Welcome to your Health Desk, a platform created and designed in a way that you and me will share health benefits of what we are going through in our everyday lives. Now, if you have been following the program, apart from the time that we transited into discussing the COVID-19 situation, we have been looking at the letters that form the word celebrations. And so if you have been following, that's what we are looking at this quarter. We haven't really been looking at diseases per se, like we have been doing in the past, but we have been celebrating our wellness, our well-to-do in terms of health. And in that direction, today we are on the letter R. Now, I'm saying R so that everyone would follow closely what we are saying, but others would say the letter R. Now, R is representing the word rest on celebrations. And so, today we are discussing rest. I'm your host. My name is Bright Sinkozi. I will be discussing with a public health expert or practitioner, and he is also a medical missionary and a lifestyle counselor or coach, if you so wish, and his name is Joel Simabwaji. Elder, good evening and welcome to the program.
Good evening. Thank you very much.
All right, so for your comments, contributions, as well as questions, you are free to send us a WhatsApp message on 0977 526 005. That's 0977 526 005. The number is right on your screen. We are talking rest, but even as we get into that, I'm sure those of you that have followed the news from yesterday and today, you agree with me that the cases that, COVID-19 cases in Zambia are still on an increase. And the sad part is that here in Lusaka, the cases, Lusaka has been re-identified as a hotspot again. This is going to be the second time from the initial time when COVID came into Zambia. It was Lusaka. It spread to other parts of the country, Nakonde and Chirundu and all other parts of the country. But it is back in Lusaka, and so the Ministry of Health is saying Lusaka is a hotspot now. So meaning each and every one of us will have to take serious precautions and follow strictly the measures that have been put in place to ensure that you and me are going to stay safe and clear of COVID-19. But it doesn't mean it's only Lusaka. Look here, if it moved to other parts and came back to Lusaka, it's possible that it can go to other parts of the country. So every other person in Zambia is supposed to guard their health jealously. And that's the reason why it becomes very important for you and me to do what we are supposed to do, wearing of masks, washing our hands or sanitizing our hands, keeping a physical distance if we must, so that we avoid the further spread and contracting of the COVID-19 disease. So we are talking about coronavirus disease, which is affecting us. What is saddening about this whole situation is that we have lost so many people. Now, last week when we started this program, we did mention on the program to say we shouldn't lose focus because the danger is still with us. It is not gone. It's not yet over until we are told it's over. Let's keep doing what we are supposed to do. Look here, people have died. Unfortunately, just in the last 11 days, we have lost 18. Now, out of the 18, 4 have died from the facilities, but 14 of them died at home. Were brought in dead, PIDs. What does that mean? It means the disease is in our communities. And when it is in our communities, we have to ensure that we guard ourselves against contracting this virus. It is deadly, especially now that we are losing so many people. 42 lives so far lost as a result of COVID-19. It's not a very good thing. So you and me have to do everything possible to ensure that we stay clear of the COVID-19. I thought I should give that preamble, but we are not discussing COVID-19, we are discussing rest. And so let's restrict our questions and contributions towards rest. Elder Simabwaji,
yes.
I love Tonga Ila names because we have to pronounce them with a certain emphasis. But just tell us about yourself, a bit about yourself. Public health expert, medical missionary, lifestyle counselor, all those things, one person.
Yes. Yeah, so by profession, I'm a public health specialist.
Right.
That is by training. I did public health, and I specialize in health promotion.
Good.
Then at my workplace, I do environmental health. So it's all in the area of public health. And then I'm also a medical missionary. And then I also do lifestyle counseling. That is talking about the lifestyle, the correct lifestyles and the health principles in details. So guiding an individual in how they should go about a proper lifestyle of living in order to enhance their health and to prevent disease. So we are called lifestyle counselors.
Lifestyle
in the
counselor.
medical missionary approach.
Okay.
Yes.
So a public health practitioner, expert, is well known to us. But tell us about medical missionary. I'll suspend lifestyle counselor because that one is also direct. But medical missionary, what are we talking about? How?
When we are talking about medical missionary, we're talking about medical. There are two terms here. There's medicine, and then there's also the missionary work. So any individual in the area of health, working in the profession of health, and then is using that in the advancement of the work of God. So is a missionary who is sent to carry out the work of God through the medical approach.
Okay, so you are combining God's work with your profession, which is very, very encouraging. So me in the media, if I want to become a missionary, what would you call me?
I don't know how you'd call it, but you are spreading the gospel.
Fantastic. Right, we are talking about rest. In a broader perspective, when we talk about rest, somebody's going to think we are talking about taking a rest from doing this work and then resume later. In another sense, we are talking about sleeping. In another sense, we are talking about, for example, the Sabbath rest. So there are so many rests. But let's get to the medical or health point of view. Rest. What is it? What is rest?
So from the health point of view, I would describe rest as a need. It's a need just like food. A need just like water is a need to a human being. But then rest in its practical sense is just taking a break from a routine activity. It might be an activity that requires someone to concentrate. So when you take a break for the purpose of re-energizing and restoring your energy and revitalizing, that is rest. It is important. So it might not always mean sitting down. It might mean even taking a day off routine activities. It might also include taking some days off after working for too long, like after so many months. So you take a vacation, that is also rest. So all that is very important for health. It prepares us and re-energizes us for more challenges and for more work.
All right, so then if we are to set a tone for what we are discussing this evening in a broader perspective, what direction are we taking? Is it a general one where you have specified though, but it's generally considered? Because if I take a vacation, I'm resting, but I'll still be doing other activities. Some people believe rest is only a situation where you sit at home and sleep all day long. You're resting, that's fine. What direction are we taking?
So the direction that we are taking, we are going to emphasize on sleep. Sleep. Yes. That's a daily rest that we need. And then we're also going to talk about the weekly rest. And we include also the vacations because they are also important.
Okay.
So we'll talk less, but the emphasis I think that we really need is we are missing out a lot on the sleep part of rest.
All right, but then let me bring in the aspect of what we experience on a day-to-day, in our day-to-day life, in society. We've seen that a good number of us are actually busy. Here in Lusaka, you'd think people don't have time to rest. Move about. Just after this program, move up to somewhere 01. You see that there are people that are busy moving up and down from one end to another.
Exactly.
And ask yourself, what time do these people rest? What time do these people sleep?
Yeah.
Are we going to conclude here and say we live in a rest-deprived society?
I would actually describe it that way. We are living in a rest-deprived society, actually. And the common terms that are currently used now in public health, that it is now becoming a public health epidemic. It is a problem that so many people do not realize. So we are really living in a sleep-deprived society. Look at the time that technology was being improved. There was so much talking about the coming in of internet, talking about coming in of improved mobile phones and then transport, this development. And people were thinking that in the era that we're getting in, we're going to have a lot of time to rest because a lot of things will be automatically done. There will be nothing like traveling to the post office. You will use internet, you will use the phone. But alas, it is now the opposite. People are able to carry work to their homes. Over the weekends, people are working. Midnight, the shops are open, the bars are open, and we are getting closer and closer to midnight all the time. In their homes, people are busy watching different movies, and there's so many channels. There's a lot to keep people busy, and what can only keep us safe is discipline, understanding that we really need to rest. So we are really living in a sleep-deprived society, such that we need the good habits to guide us.
We need the good habits to guide us. But then, I don't know if I followed you correctly. What would you attribute to this deprivation in society, failing to rest as per se? Too much TV, too much internet, too much this and whatnot. But then, if you look closely, you want to realize that it is actually something that is for a good cause. Because if I have carried my workload at home, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to beat up deadlines and all the other things that are related to my work, or maybe I'm preparing for something that is very vital that has to be done the following day or the following week, and life continues like that. Would we say that is not necessary, really? For example, you talk about people changing from one channel to another. They're going to watch Hope Channel, and then, for example, this program, if it came at 23, we would have to stay awake and follow the program. But then, would we say it's a bad thing?
Well, what I would say is that there are consequences to everything that we do, and we should mind the consequences and what really goes on in our bodies. So if we are not giving ourselves adequate rest, there's something to pay at the end. So are we willing to take that? So that is where temperance comes in, self-control. Am I having, eating is good, but eating too much will be a problem at the end of the day. So we should know our limits and the limits that God has placed in our bodies.
Okay. So let's talk about sleep here. Now that you mentioned sleep is one focus area that we are going to consider. So what comes to mind now is how long should one sleep? And maybe also we'll try and consider the effects of inadequate sleep.
The effects of inadequate sleep and how long someone should sleep.
Yeah, we start from how long.
All right. So it's different. It goes with age, and it also goes with conditions. There are people who are sick, and there are people who are expecting that those that are pregnant, they need a little bit more time for rest. And then their children, neonates, and 0 to 2 years, they would need about 14 to 17 hours of rest and taking naps during the daytime. And then children, maybe 3 up to 9 years old, they'll need about 10 to 13 hours of rest. And those younger ones, 2 to 5, 2 to 3, others would take naps during daytime. And the biggest problem comes to adults. They need about 8 hours of rest. To be specific, 7.5 to 9 hours, but average is 8 hours of rest, at least. That is the amount of time that we really need.
All right. So in terms of effects of inadequate So you have to sleep for 8 hours. But then it's a busy society.
Yes.
If I don't hustle, then I'm bound to starve my family and starve myself.
Yes.
But I have to do what is required. So now in this case that you're saying, I have to sleep for at least 8 hours, especially on adults, because for children really they have nothing to worry. The only thing that would keep them awake is being on social media, and also, I mean, the average children, youth, so to speak, and maybe watching television and all those related. But for an adult, 8 hours, I have a busy life, I have deadlines to meet. Are there effects?
There are effects, yes. There are effects. So some of the effects that one would suffer. Let me talk about, first of all, the most important one. It shortens your life. It shortens your life. 2, it affects your immunity. And it exposes you to a lot of diseases. There are diseases like diabetes, which is a very big problem now. It is on the rise. Non-communicable diseases in Zambia are on the rise. There are these that we call bipolar disorders. All these are coming nearby. And then we have problems like Alzheimer's disease. All these are diseases that can come as a result of too much inadequate rest. But then there are also minor issues that affect us on day-to-day activities. Because of sleep deprivation, one will have effects like accidents. They make a lot of mistakes, forgetfulness. And then also the relationships also suffer because someone is going to become short-tempered because the moods are not going to be so good because they didn't have adequate rest. And if you have noticed in Zambia, recently, not too long ago, a law was passed that public transport vehicles are limited on the time that they should be moving around. By, is it 10 p.m.? They should not be on the roads.
So
and those people...
21:30.
21:30, yes. So, and those people who drive vehicles that are not registered, maybe crossing the borders from, maybe say Nakonde, like Tanzania, they tend to drive all night. And those were also taught to park at 21:30. It is all because people are going to accidents because of lack of sleep. So there are negative effects if one is not resting. It also affects the brain. It affects memory. So it really affects the productivity of an individual with time. We don't usually realize, but it does.
Okay, so if one was to ask you, why should an adult sleep for all those 8 hours?
I think one thing that we need to appreciate is what is it that goes on when someone is resting, when someone is sleeping for that 8 hours. There are some people who would say, I would sleep for 4 hours, and then during daytime, I'll take another 2 hours, and maybe after doing my work, I'll get another 2 hours. So it's not like that, like in patches. You need the whole 8 hours well connected together. So what really happens in the 8 hours, why an individual needs that 8 hours of rest, is because of the processes that happens when one is sleeping. So I would say sleep can be divided into two. Okay, two types of sleep. There is the lighter kind of sleep, commonly known as the non-REM, non-rapid eye movement sleep. Then there's also the deeper kind of sleep, which is commonly known as the REM, R-E-M sleep, rapid eye movement sleep. When one is in the deeper sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, all the muscles are relaxed. The only thing that is moving are the eyes behind the closed eyelids. So they are moving rapidly one side to the other. And during that process, there are a lot of activities that are happening. There are stages. Let me talk about the stages as well. Okay. So there's the lighter sleep called the non-REM. And then there's the deeper kind of sleep, which is the REM sleep. And then through these two stages, we have these two kinds of sleep. We have stages, stage 1, 2, 3, 4. So in the first stage of sleep, someone is just dozing and beginning to sleep. And then in the second stage, one is going a little bit deeper, but the muscles are not too relaxed. And then, if you call someone who is just sleeping and just in the second stage of sleep, they can even answer you. And then if someone goes into the third stage of sleep, their muscles are now more relaxed than before, and now they are going into a deeper kind of sleep. You need to shake them in order for them to wake up. And then into the fourth stage, the muscles are completely relaxed, and then some hormones are now released into the body. The first cycle of stage 1, 2, 3, 4 will take about 1 hour 30 minutes on average. And then in the last 10 minutes, some hormones are released now to make the repairs that you need in the body, and then that cycle begins to repeat. So it will go to the second cycle, 1, 2, 3, sometimes not in order. So it will go to the third cycle, the fourth cycle, and up to the fifth or maybe even the sixth cycle. All these stages going, and each second cycle, second, third, each cycle, the fourth stage increases in duration. So the first cycle, you have about 1 hour 30 minutes. And then the last stage, maybe it's about 10 minutes. In the second cycle, you have all these stages, and the last stage increases to about maybe 20 minutes. Those are the repairs that are going on. And then the moods, preparation, because we have these hormones that help us to have a good mood. And then we also have now the memory being worked on. We have the hippocampus in the brain, which acts as the inbox for the memory and the storage of memory and the files put in order and in place, preparing you for the next day. So we just need rest. So during that 8 hours, that has to happen. And the body has to undergo a process of healing, a process of making it ready, re-energizing it, and making you ready for the next day. So if you do not do that, you do not have all that time, then you are depriving yourself of that.
So that is only possible when one sleeps at night?
When one sleeps at night, yes. During daytime, you have less benefits because to go into the deeper sleep, you need darkness, you need quietness. We have a hormone that helps us to fall asleep, but it senses light. We have a pineal gland that only supplies melatonin that you need in the body when it senses darkness. And when there's light, an individual will not easily fall asleep and you'll not go to that deeper kind of sleep. You see, and that's why even in the night when the lights are on, or you've been watching something on phone and television, and the body is still sensing light. And so melatonin is not coming to help you to give you that kind of sleep that you really need.
But what do you make of the sleep that some people have done during daytime?
They really take... it's important sometimes if one has been exhausted and if it's really necessary, but during daytime it's not really the right time to sleep because it disturbs the nighttime sleep, because it's like a pressure cooker where you are getting a little bit of some pressure from it, so you are depriving yourself of the good quality evening time's rest. Okay. So that shouldn't come frequently and under normal circumstances.
So if I said, I have no problem, I sleep during daytime, and then I still manage to enjoy my 8 hours of sleep later in the night. So is that a problem? So are we saying sleeping during daytime should be forbidden?
Is discouraged depending on what an individual does. So there are times when you really need to rest. So it is not a rule that I would say sleeping during daytime is forbidden. But research has revealed that sleeping or taking naps during daytime can affect the quality of your sleep in the night. Okay. But there are times when you really feel like you can't just stand, you need to sleep. The body is demanding that you take some rest. So you can take a nap. There are short naps that I encourage, like before lunch. Just a 5 minutes, it's called a cat nap, 5 minutes cat nap. where one just sleeps a little bit and then wakes up. So that may be encouraged, but taking naps during daytime as an adult, it will affect the quality of your sleep in the night.
All right. Talking of quality, we know, and this is not a hidden secret, that a good number of us struggle really to sleep during nighttime. So now that you're talking about quality sleep that is affected because of how you managed your day, especially in terms of sleeping, the question now would be, what should one do if they are to improve the quality of sleep?
Good. That's a very good question. To improve the quality of sleep, there's certain things that an individual needs to do even during daytime. One needs to consider exercise. The book of Ecclesiastes chapter 5 verse 12, it says, the sleep of a laborer is sweet. A laboring man. The sleep of a laboring man is sweet. It talks about activity. So if one exercises, if one has taken a walk, even at least 30 minutes, so it will improve the quality of your sleep. 2, exposure to sunlight. Exposure to sunlight encourages the production of serotonin, a hormone that you really need to improve the mood of an individual. And then it gets converted into melatonin, the hormone that helps us to sleep in the night. So just that exposure to the sun, it will give you a good night's rest. Research shows that individuals that were deprived of sunshine would sleep about 50 minutes later than the normal time. They'll find it difficult for about 50 minutes to fall asleep. So you need exposure to sunlight during daytime. And then you need, at the time of sleeping, you need to be away from the noise. And you also need to be in a dark room. We've talked about the production of melatonin, which is at highest levels at midnight. And then the other thing is one should sleep early. If one sleeps after midnight, they experience less rest as compared to an individual who sleeps early enough. If you read the book Education by Ellen White, she says in the schools, in the Adventist schools, by 2130, all the lights should be switched off. Why? It is because people need to sleep, to sleep early. So that is one aspect that is really helpful for us. The other thing is, if someone is having difficulties to sleep, they need to pray about it. God helps.
I was really coming to that.
Okay.
The difficulties in sleeping is something that some people just find themselves into that activity, and I have seen a good number of people who would, at a given time, even wake up and post on social media and ask who team. They call it as team insomnia. Team insomnia, who is awake this time. The other post that I saw from a very good dear friend was asking to say, who else is awake apart from the witches? You know, the question then would be, what are the common causes of insomnia?
First of all, just to describe insomnia, it is habitual sleeplessness. Not just occasional sleeplessness, but habitual. So it is failing to sleep. And the common causes, sometimes it is depression, stress. There are also medications that make people not to sleep. And then there are also certain disease conditions that may just cause an individual not to find it very easy to sleep. And then most commonly, lack of exercise and bad sleeping habits, poor sleeping habits. And also things that we've talked about, like exposure to phone, no exercise. So that kind of lifestyle can cause an individual to be having difficulties with insomnia. The other tricky part is when someone has had insomnia and then begins to worry of not falling asleep. So it worsens the problem.
Okay, so you encourage people to be using, in this case, it's a problem, yes, but then we have known it's a problem.
Yes.
But then it has to have a solution.
Mm-hmm.
So one solution, some people resort to sleeping pills, for example.
Sleeping pills.
Yeah. So would you encourage people to use sleeping pills?
I wouldn't encourage people to use sleeping pills. Sleeping pills, I would encourage only one to use those if a medical doctor has prescribed that and has seen it a necessity for a short period of time. Because prolonged use of sleeping pills can cause health consequences, and it also causes addiction. And people who also show withdrawal symptoms when they want to break away from the habit of taking sleeping pills. The quality of sleep that an individual will have when they are using sleeping pills is not the same as that of natural sleep. Because under natural sleep, one will go through the REM stages that I've talked about. It's not there when one has used the sleeping pills. And there are different kinds. Others, you require actually a prescription. And in Zambia, we have what we call the Dangerous Drug Act. So most of them, like diazepam and these kinds of drugs that I use also for sleeping, these are the kinds of drugs that are really restricted also for use because of their nature. So, and the consequences. And others even use them for suicide. So you can see how dangerous they are. So I wouldn't advise someone to resort to that unless it's really very, very necessary and under the prescription of a medical doctor.
All right, so if a medical doctor has prescribed, then it is well.
Then they have seen a need because maybe the opposite or the alternative, that's the only alternative for a short period of time. The other thing that I would say is when one has taken the sleeping pills, the REM stage is bypassed. And so when they wake up, they feel tired, aching, they have what we call residual tiredness. So they will not have the benefits that one will have. There's a difference between natural sleeping and sedation sleep. So those are the kinds of drugs that will sedate someone. For example, when someone has been given diazepam, or they will sedate an individual in order to carry out an operation, that individual is not even going to disturb because they have taken the consciousness away. But under normal circumstances in natural sleep, you will not even carry out a surgical operation on someone who is sleeping naturally. They will disturb the process. They wake up. So that's a difference. So the other drugs, they are in different types, but they have a different purpose and they have a different mechanism altogether.
And so if one has been prescribed, because prescriptions, I know they're not for a lifetime, they're just for a limited time to correct that situation. In an event that, yes, the prescription has come your way, and you've been taking the pills, helping you to sleep. When that period expires, you still get back to your failing to sleep. Insomnia becomes part of your daily activities. What then could be the problem? I'm thinking, because I have been given medication, but
yes,
the problem has not completely gone. After being on medication, it still comes back. Then what could be the problem?
Target the underlying cause. What is it that is causing the sleeplessness? What is it that brought the insomnia in the first place? So you target the underlying causes. So that's the best option ever. So if it is because of certain disease condition, try to work against that disease. If it is poor sleeping habits, correct those habits. If the problem is because of a drug that somebody is taking, I'm sure when they stop that kind of medication at the end of the day, they are going to have they'll begin to get back to the normal routines. So continuation with this drug will just worsen the problem. Even the tolerance also be affected for the drug. Yes.
The mind, the brain gets conditioned sometimes.
Yes.
For example, we have a good number that are studying and so they would schedule to wake up, say, at 5 to study, or others would study up to, say, midnight. Then after midnight, they will sleep until 8 in the morning. The brain is conditioned. So away from studies, you are not studying, you are done with the studies. The mind still records to say at 5 you need to be up, at 2 a.m. you need to be up, or you will be up until such a time. Come what may, you will not even sleep. You've done your exercises, you've done everything required during the day. But when that time comes, automatically you are up. When that time has not yet come, you can't sleep. What do you make of such situations, and how do we go about it?
All right. So in the first place, one should have the correct habits. Our brain is so complicated. God made us in a fearful manner and in a very wonderful way that He helps us to get into habits very easily. We have a part in the brain, it's called the basal ganglia. It helps us to automate things, like to make habits and form habits. And then also part of what the pineal gland does, as it sends the hormones at different times, like melatonin, it helps us to make a rhythm, like the circadian rhythms. This, what I'm saying is, we have what we call the circadian clock that we follow because of the habits. If I wake up at 5 a.m. and I make it a habit of waking up at 5 a.m., and the hormones will be set in such a way that at 5 a.m. the body will make me rise at 5 a.m. If I eat my lunch at 12 hours, I'll feel hungry at 12 hours. If I sleep at 9 p.m., my body will feel drowsy at 9 p.m. And so the body will be set up in that manner. So the best way is to set up the body in a correct manner. You need to sleep early. Before 10 p.m. before 10 p.m. it's best to sleep around that time. So you make sure you begin to sleep maybe 21 hours or 21:30, and then you make sure you wake up at a certain time. You will not need a stopwatch, you will not need an alarm to wake you up when you make it a habit. So the first thing is to make the correct habits. But then we have challenging situations. You've talked about students, like studying. Sometimes you cannot change the system, because you'll be required to be in class at 7 hours. And then you'll be required to be in class again, maybe in the evening. And there's nothing that you can do about it. And then also you've been given an assignment to do. And if you do not follow that pattern, you are going to remain behind. So in such situations, all an individual can do is just to adjust and do as much as possible, getting close to the correct habits as possible. That is what can help. So what you asked, you talked about, what should I do? If I wake up at 5 a.m. and I didn't have enough sleep, just correct the habits. Ensure you wake up at the right time, sleep at the right time.
Okay.
Yes.
I am very much aware you are a Christian and an elder for that matter.
Yes.
And since you're a medical missionary, you would want to agree with me that there are certain things that are very, very vital. But before I ask that question, I have 8 hours of sleep. Not really that it's insomnia, but I have a cause that I need to wake up in the middle of my sleep.
Okay.
For example, I have to go answer the call of nature. Yeah. Yes. I'll wake up, but still come back and continue with my sleep.
Yes.
What do you make of those stoppages in between my sleep? Are they okay, or they are also a problem because they are interrupting my 8 hours?
Not always a problem. We talked about the stages of sleep.
Yeah.
Talked about the first stage, the second, the third, and the fourth. So the deeper sleep is in the fourth. So it's not all the time that you are in the deep sleep throughout the 8 hours. So you get to the lighter and the deeper. So there are times when you can wake up and then you continue. But the problem comes in if there are so many interruptions during the night. So the other thing that I would say is, like, if someone wants to go and answer the call of nature, if you have programmed yourself to be waking up at a certain time, or you wake up in the night to go and answer the call of nature, usually it will become part of the rhythm. If you wake up at 10 p.m. or maybe say 2 a.m., Every day at 2 a.m., you find yourself at work and you feel like going to empty your bladder. And so it will be part of, so when you correct the habits, you find that if you go in the morning to the bathroom, you only wake up in the morning to go to the bathroom. So when you correct the habits, that's a key. Yes.
Okay, then now it brings me to the question. Since you've okayed, those of us, I know people that are watching now, a good number, would wake up in the middle of the night and hold seasons of prayer, praying, say, from midnight up until 2 a.m. At the expense of sleeping. It's a very good thing that I have to practice, that everyone has to practice.
Okay.
Others would sleep, say, at 9 p.m., 21, and then they are up at 3. They will only finish with their prayers, say, at 5, 6. And chances of them going back to sleep are not there. They are doing something great, something very important, something that a Christian should not avoid.
Yes, to do.
What do you make of such?
Okay, so God gave us the day for work and gave us the night for rest. But then it is also important to pray, extremely important in our days to pray. Now, making that a daily habit will affect your sleep and the quality of your sleep. The advice that I would make is that if it is becoming a habit, why not wake up early in the morning the way Jesus did? The Bible says in the book of Mark chapter 1 verse 35 that early in the morning at daybreak, Jesus would go to a solitary place and pray. I think let us do it like Jesus. And Jesus recognized prayer. Prayer and also rest. In Mark chapter 6 verse 31, here's a situation. People are coming to Jesus to listen to him as he teaches. He's with his disciples, and then they have worked for too long. He says to his disciples, come apart, you yourselves, to a solitary place and rest a while. And then they get into a boat, and then they leave the crowd and sail to a place where there's no one else. And in that place, without being inconvenienced, they rest. And if you read that passage very well, you will notice that people made the shortcut, they kept on following, and then they found Jesus, and then he looked at them, he had compassion on them, and they were like sheep without a shepherd. And then he began to teach them, but after taking some rest. So what I'm saying is, it is important to pray, but it is also important to rest. You remember, the bodies are the temples of the Holy Spirit. And then God commands us to keep them in good health. So we need to pray, yes, but if we make it a habit like interrupting sleep for so long a time, it might also have an effect on our life. But there are times when the Lord himself will wake you up in the night to pray. You need to obey the voice of the Holy Spirit.
All right. Talking about rest, the physical sleep and everything has been put into consideration and perspective. Let us talk about the weekly rest, really. What do you have to say about that weekly rest? But also, we couple in your response, couple it with the annual rest, for example, the vacation that you did mention, and all that encompassing rest that is not really sleeping.
Okay. So if you look at the Bible itself, God designed that we should have rest, weekly rest. And God designed that also we should have other rest days. Let me go to science, scientifically proven things. Like during World War I, many people began to work very hard in order to catch up on development. They noticed that they were not doing very much because people were getting exhausted. And then it was suggested that people should have at least a day of rest. They work only to a maximum of 48 hours a week. And then they noticed that productivity increased in working for 6 days and 1 day of rest. Winston Churchill, on 29th July 1941, declared in Parliament to say it is important, the power, if we are to win the World War I, The power is in the staying power, resting. Let us have 1 day of rest, and then let us have at least a week, about a few days, a week of rest in the whole year's working timetable, meaning that an annual rest of about a week. And then they noticed that that was important, and it was added to the laws actually. So this is very important. When God was creating everything, God who is all-knowing, on the day number 7, he showed us an example and gave us a day of rest. This day of rest, apart from having communion with God, it is also physical rest. It is also a time where we have to put aside everything that bothers us. And science has proven that people who have at least a day of rest, they live longer. I'll talk about some places in the world that are called the blue zones. One of them is Loma Linda, California. There's one in Italy. There's another one who is Okinawa in Japan. There's another one is in Asia also. In other countries, about 5 places that are called the blue zones. These people live the longest in the world. And then National Geographic followed up these places to study their life habits and what they have in common, what makes them live longer and long, healthy lives. One thing they found in common is that in all these places, they have certain things that in common. They have something in common on what they eat. The other thing is on rest. The time in terms of hours and having a day of rest. So all these, not the Sabbath per se, but they have a day when they do not work. And all these experience better health than the rest of the populations. So it is important to have a day of rest, physically and also psychologically.
Okay,
Yes.
then I did ask about an annual rest that is spiritually connected, but also away from work. I am here January to December, come the other year, January to December, I am here. What do you make of such rest?
Like January to December,
Yes.
one is working throughout.
Yes, so now I'm not even given a privilege. I don't give myself, so to speak, if I haven't requested to go on annual leave, for example, but I am ever doing the same things.
Okay.
Considering, bearing in mind that what I am doing on a daily basis is some sort of a routine kind of work.
Yes.
So you talked about sunlight. We are just in air conditions until the time I go home, come back tomorrow, keep doing the same things without resting, really away from that. Your quick comment as we near the end of the discussion.
It has a psychological impact. Yes. But there are some things that you would miss out. You need to re-energize. You see, the body rhythms that we have, they are not only for a single night. They are also for a weekly cycle and an annual cycle. It changes. The body adapts to different situations. For example, when we go into the winter, the body adapts that this time we are going into the cold season. When you go into the long days and the short night, the body adapts. When you go to the shorter days and longer nights, the body adapts. So there is that rhythm. So the body follows that. So it is also important for someone to have an annual rest. It is something that has been proven scientifically, and this is what has led to programs like vacations for schools. They will not learn throughout. You see, on a daily basis, they'll have a break. Maybe 10 hours is break time because they can't concentrate. Concentration span will be short. So they take a break, then they go back to class again. Take a break at lunchtime, then they get back to class. That is on a daily basis. And then on a weekly basis, they'll take a day off or so, or 2. That is scientifically proven. It rejuvenates. And then apart from that, there are times when schools will be closed. In August, maybe April and December. So research has actually indicated that taking an annual rest, it helps a person to get prepared and to carry out the other burdens, routine activities.
Right. Finally, on the discussion, what are the spiritual benefits of good rest? That's spiritual benefits of sleep spiritual benefits of weekly rest, etc.
Yes. The spiritual benefits of, let me begin with rest, sleep. The spiritual benefits is that it helps you to communicate very well with the Holy Spirit. You see, the part of the brain that helps us communicate with God is the frontal lobe. And this is the part that is mostly affected when one has had poor quality sleep. The reasoning is lowered. And an individual who is in the work of the Lord, carrying out the gospel, need to be receptive to the voice of the Holy Spirit. They need to be in good health. If you study the Bible very well, you look at the habits of Daniel. These people, Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, these people, they followed a healthy lifestyle. They followed it, and there was a difference in the way they were doing everything. So the spiritual benefits are that even the habits that we make, you see, I give an example. I said the other effects of poor sleep are that an individual will have a bad mood. So bad habits, maybe your responses will be bad, the way you talk, so that will be your character at the end of the day. On a weekly basis, the spiritual benefits are that it gives us time with the Lord. And the Bible says in the book of Matthew, chapter 11, verse 28, "Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon thee and learn from me, for I am humble and gentle in heart, and you shall find rest for your souls." Jesus is saying to people that are burdened in different ways, "Come, let us carry the yoke together with me, because the yoke has space for two." So Jesus on the other side, and you on the other side. And then he says, "For I am humble and gentle in heart, and you shall find rest for your soul." So you learn from me. So this is a spiritual benefit that we find. It gives us time to be with the Lord, to offload the burdens that we have, and to get together with the Lord. And then it also helps us to be with the family.
Right.
So it just builds up.
Your concluding remarks, sir?
Yes. So the concluding remarks are basically what I've just
fantastic. So
said. We
need
need Jesus to be our friend. The other part that I wanted to add is that on a daily basis, when we want to sleep, let us end the day with the Lord. When we wake up early in the morning, let us begin the day with the Lord. The last thought on our minds should be Jesus Christ.
Okay. You will be going back to curfew.
Yes.
Yeah. Here is somebody that is on a bus from here at Hope Channel going, say, for example, Chirenja, on a public bus, minibus.
Yes.
And then it's during the day. And then this short distance, they sleep on a bus. What would be the problem?
The problem would be if they are unable to control it. Like, okay, the problem would be sleep deprivation. It's a sign that somebody did not have adequate sleep most of the times, because it affects wakefulness during daytime. It also affects concentration. It affects a number of things. Sometimes it may not really be a problem. Someone is comfortable, the situation, there are certain vibrations, there are certain rhythms that just help somebody to sleep, just like a massage. So that wouldn't really indicate a problem all the time, but sometimes
it's a problem.
It's a problem.
Right, there we have it. We end here on our discussion this evening. We have been discussing rest, and my guest, Elder Joel Simabwaja, a public health expert. He is also a medical missionary and a lifestyle counselor. I want to pray and believe that from this discussion you have gotten something that is going to propel you into doing the correct things, especially when it comes to rest. A habit can be broken, and strive, as it has been advised, to do the correct thing. It's almost to 21, so he is suggesting that we should take rest. Now that we've watched the program, we can take rest from our day's activities, but then we know that we respond differently to different situations, and I pray that the advice that has been given on this program today will go a long way to help you repair your body that is ever exhausted because of what we are doing. It's all about developing a workable timetable like he indicated. When we would have known what we're supposed to do, then we will know when to do what should be done. I'm Bright Sinkers. Until next week at the same time, God bless and bye for now.